Welcome everyone to our third webinar. Today we will be discussing thresholds, and today's presentation will be an overview on all the threshold features that are available on our eConnect PDUs. This will include understanding what their purpose is, what threshold alarms are, outlet thresholds, branch thresholds, environmental thresholds, and we'll also provide information on where in the user manual and other guides you can find information about this topic. So the main purpose of thresholds is to alert on any configured thresholds when they are compared to present metrics. These can be configured in a customizable way, so you can configure values that will trigger alarms and notifications when they're outside of a certain range. They also provide visual representation of operating, warning, and critical voltage and load ranges conditions for branches in the PDU unit. And they provide visual presentation for operating, warning, and critical range conditions of temperature and humidity sensors if they're available. Another thing that purpose is to enable notifications of alarms in the form of SNMP traps, log entries, and emails when configured. And for this one in particular, we will have a separate webinar explaining notifications in the future. So threshold alarms can be set by branch and environmental metric needs. And when these are set at the outlet level, one of the things that we would like you to pay special attention to is low voltage thresholds. So if you think of a setup that has a side A and B, when a low voltage threshold is set, let's say the circuit breaker trips, you will be able to see a voltage drop. And remembering that whatever affects one side, let's say side A, it will affect the side B. So this is a very useful feature to notice this kind of behavior when it happens. And in the eConnect PDU, you will also visually be able to see when a threshold alarm is triggered. So the image that's here on this slide shows a PDU status LED that is indicating, when it's red, it's indicating that there is a critical alert that has to be looked at. And it is a very cool thing to have as a feature, to be able to visually see when these alarms are triggered. So one of the types of threshold alarms is the outlet status alarm. And when available, it can indicate when a critical low load and overload is present, or also warnings for low load and overload. As an example, we have alarms that can be visually identified on the eConnect PDU, and as shown in this table, Switch Pro, Switch and Monitor Pro vertical eConnect configurations will have an LED on every individual outlet, and it will provide status information. So let's say that a branch voltage is below threshold, then that would be indicated as a blue color blinking state. And similar, like this is an example for Switch Pro and Switch. So similarly, Monitor Pro units will do the same, where the branch voltage below threshold will be indicated by a blue color and a blinking state. Another way to identify threshold alarms is through the LCD display. So Monitor Pro and Switch Pros, when any alarm or warning threshold is hit, the alarm summary is going to be displayed. And this can be accessed through the home icon. And you can see that there's going to be an indication of an alarm. This is an example of a temperature humidity alarm. And there's going to be a yellow background that's indicating a warning condition that has been triggered or reached, and a red background whenever a critical condition has been reached. Another way to access or see threshold alarms is through the web GUI. And probably most of you have worked with this already. So in the web GUI, under the status tab and the alarms subtab, is going to show a summary of all active alarms in the unit. Anything that's a warning threshold will be indicated by a yellow colored rectangular alarm status symbol, and critical thresholds will be indicated by a red colored rectangular alarm status symbol. So in the example shown to the right, notice how it will show that color status, it shows your PDU name, and also it has a description of what this alarm is describing. So for instance, if a voltage dropped below, let's say a warning low threshold, then you'll be able to see that description there. And then we'll get into more details on how this looks like for the branch or any other types of thresholds. Another feature that our units include is accessing threshold alarms through CLI and bulk API. So these can be set and reviewed through them. And in our guide, we include how the commands are going to look like when setting these up. So if you notice to the left, we have a series of CLI commands. They can be, for branch, we can set them up from a maximum to a minimum. We can set up warning alarms. For environmental, we can do from maximum to minimum. For humidity and temperature, we can also add those warning thresholds. And then for outlets, as we mentioned before, you can add also maximum, minimum, and a warning for a specific range of values. To the right, this is an example. You can see an example of how we look like on bulk API when setting up an alarm for low voltage for a specific branch. And it's a very good thing to have, that you can also access that through the bulk API if you need to. So outlet thresholds, if they are available in your eConnect unit, and this will be available in Monitor Pros and Switch Pro, it will be available under, if you're going to the web GUI, it will be available under the Notifications tab and the Threshold subtab, and you can change all of the values if needed and save them. And another interesting part of this feature is that they can be copied. Any settings can be copied from one specific outlet to all other outlets. Similar to this, you can set up your outlet thresholds via CLI and bulk API. Here are some examples of how that would look like. So from a CLI perspective, let's say you want to set up maximum, minimum current, or you want to set up a warning. There are commands available for that. And from a bulk API perspective, you can have access to the alarm status of the outlet. So it can show, you can set up a no alarm or a warning, or if the status is of alarm. So we've already reviewed thresholds by outlets. Let's take a look at branch thresholds. These allow data thresholds for voltage and load to be specified to trigger an alarm event by branch. So here we see that there is an example of setting it up through the web GUI. And it will be under the Notifications tab and the Threshold subtab. Notice how we have a branch where values of critical low voltage, warning low voltage, as well as critical low load or warning low load, everything can be set up here. And another interesting thing is that you can copy from one branch. I know that this example is only showing one branch, but if you had, let's say, up to 6 branches, then you can copy from one particular branch onto the other one. Branch thresholds can also be accessed and set via CLI and bulk API. So to your left, you will see that there's an example on how to review the alarm for a branch. So we use the config get command. In this case, it is calling the branch threshold for the max voltage, and it provides back the value that where that threshold is at. Similarly, if you want to set it up, you use a command, use a config set command, and it will show you when the changes are complete. From a bulk API perspective, we can also, for the branch thresholds, see the status. We can see if there's a no alarm warning or alarm status for that one. Now, for environmental thresholds, these can be reviewed from the LCD display. As we showed in the first slides, there will be indications of alarms when a threshold has been triggered. So on the PDU display, anything that's out of range will be highlighted as well on that summary screen, as you see it here in the example. And also that LED, that PDU status LED, is going to flash. In the web GUI, and this is available in the Monitor Pro Switch and Switch Pro unit, the environmental thresholds are going to be limited to 150 degrees Fahrenheit. Its equivalent in Celsius is 65.5. So you can set up those critical low, warning low, warning high, critical high values under that notifications tab in the threshold subtab. You input all of the desired limitations that you want to set for those sensors, and then you click save, and it's a very simple process. Also, these can be accessed via CLI and bulk API. Here's an example of how the alarms can be set for an environmental threshold. This is an example for a minimum temperature, and if the alarm is thrown, it's hit, then you will have a value of 1. This is the indicator that the alarm is on. And we have a group of commands that can help set up any of these ranges or values, from a maximum to a minimum to your warning max and minimum if needed. Now, on bulk API, we also have the capability of retrieving the environmental data as well as setting it. This is an example of how we retrieve it. So we have specific commands for that.